Alright, so our KPI cards are showing the revenue for the current month and comparing it to the previous year and to the previous month, which is great. But Andy and the regional managers are also going to want to see a clear picture of the revenue trend for this year compared to last year. So let's set that up. Let's call this revenue trend, and we'll want the x-axis to be the month, which is from 1 to 12. So I can write the first two, select them, then notice that as I drag down, we'll see the rest of the numbers autofill, and we get the numbers from 1 to 12. And now the series are going to be last year and this year, so 2020 and 2021. But remember, we want the dashboard to update automatically as time goes by. So we actually don't want to write these as fixed values, but to use our date filters instead. So instead of 2020, I'm going to reference the previous year, which is 2020 right now. And instead of 21, let's do the current year. So now that this is ready, what we can do is use a sum-ifs formula to calculate the revenue for each month in each year. So we're going to write a formula that we drag down to the rest of these months for this year, and then drag across so that it calculates the same, but for this year. So we're going to have to keep this in mind. So we want a sum-ifs formula. We need the sum of the revenue, and remember we need to fix this column because as we drag our formula across, we don't want it to move from revenue to profit. So I'm going to press F4, and you'll notice that nothing is happening to my reference here. And what this is actually doing is exposing a small flaw in using Excel tables, which is that it's tricky to actually fix the references. Now there is a way to do this, and to show you what I'm going to do is instead of just selecting revenue, I'm going to click and drag to select revenue and profit. And you'll see that we get a different kind of structured reference. And what this is saying is that we want all the data from the revenue to the profit column in the data table. So what I can do is just change this from profit to revenue, and now we are still just referencing the revenue column, but now this will no longer move across as I drag it, which is what we wanted. So this is the way that we can write an absolute structured reference. So let's continue with our formula now. We want to sum the revenue whenever the region, and again let's click and drag, so whenever the region is equal to the selected region, whenever the month is equal to this month right here. And this is a traditional formula, so we can use F4, but what do we need to fix here? We don't want to fix the entire thing because we do want this to apply down, so we need a relative row. But we do want a fixed column because as we drag this formula across, we don't want this to move over to the right. I'm going to press F4 2 more times. We have a fixed column and a relative row. And let's continue with our formula. So right now we have the sum of revenue whenever the region is equal to the selected region, whenever the month is equal to this month, which will apply down, and we also need it to be whenever the year, and let's fix this as well, is equal to this year right here. And now in this case, we don't want it to move down as we apply it down because the year is always going to live in this row, but we do want it to move across for this year. So I'm going to press F4 twice so that we have a fixed row and a relative column. And now we can finally close our formula, press enter. Let's copy this formatting over. And let's see if this is working. So let's apply this down. And if I step into any one of my cells, press F2, you'll see that we're referencing this year and this month, which is what we wanted. And now let's apply these to the right. Step into 1, and you'll see that our table references stayed fixed, which is what we wanted, and we're still referencing this year and this month. So it looks like we have all the right calculations. These 0 values here are because, remember, right now we're in July 2021, so these periods haven't happened yet. And if we look at our value for July 2021, it's the same one we have here. So it looks like we are calculating our revenue trends correctly. Now let's just apply some formatting here. Make these bold and light green. And let's copy this over as well. Now final test. Let's check if these selections are working. 69038, 69038. So it looks like things are looking good.